going to show you how to create a gradient landscape using Adobe Illustrator. I was inspired to create this assignment for my students based on my painting class. I teach watercolors, and one of the first things you learn is how to gradually increase the intensity of watercolors to go from light to dark to create an interesting gradient landscape. If you were to put in gradient landscape in Google, you would see that some of these you would even see, let's see, right there is like a student work of a gradient landscape in painting. And I figured, why not try it out in Illustrator? Because you can see other people have come up with that idea as well. The main thing when you're looking at, say, an image for inspiration like this one, is I want you to notice that the further away the object is, the lighter it is. And in this case, in this project, we're working with in monochromatic, so just one color. As you can see in this photograph, it's just one color as well. It's all blue. And several of the other ones are that way as well. Mono means one, chromatic means color, so that's why we're doing it monochromatic. There's some vocabulary for you. This is a very simple Illustrator technique, and it can get a little bit confusing, so I want you to try to bear with me, and if you have any questions, just let me know. I'm also going to add some trees into my landscape, so I googled free tree clip art and I saved this image. I'm going to show you how to do some fun tricks in Illustrator with that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up Illustrator and do File, New, and I'm going to just choose that, make sure it's inches and landscape. It's kind of big, 10 by 14, but whatever. I want it to look like that. Now, my inspiration image, this image, there's lots of layers of mountains. I'm not going to do that many just for the sake of time and to show you how this works. But the first thing we have to do is we have to create our layers, our gradients, our monochromatic colors that we need to choose from. So you're going to choose the square tool, the rectangle tool, and draw a long rectangle, and I take off the outline so it's empty, and then I take off the outline, and then I go to the solid fill color and I fill it with a black and white gradient. And come over here, my gradient is not showing. If you ever have a tool that's not showing, this is an excellent example. Go up to Window, go to your selection tool, go to Window, and I always go to my workspace and I tell it to reset my essentials. Look, there's my gradient. And I have it chosen. I'm going to come back over here to the gradient on this side, and I'm changing the direction of my gradient. I'm going to draw it from light to dark. Now is the fun part, you can change the color. So to change the color of your gradient, you double click in that little square, and you can choose from, I like to choose from these options first. Choose a dark blue, and then I like to add in, I don't like to go necessarily from white to blue or whatever purpley-ish color this is. You can add more colors in to make your gradient more gradual. You can even add in, I can make it super dark here at the end. I can double click on that square, go to the palette, and darken it even more. So you can really customize your colors, and that's the fun part. So I'm going to come over here and move these around a bit. So that looks good to me. I'm going to go up to my selection tool and look at that awesome monochromatic gradient I got going on right there, neat value scale. I'm going to select it and I'm going to go up to Object and Expand. And what this is going to do is expand all of these colors into individual colors instead of gradient. Let me show you why we're doing that. If I were to go and draw a, well, let's say it's an empty square, okay, and I want to fill this square with just this color right here. You'll see why I'm doing this in a second. I'll explain it. And I use my eyedropper tool to select that color. It's going to turn it into a whole gradient. It's selecting this whole gradient and applying it to that shape. And that's not what I want. I want just that color right there, or just that color right there. So in order to do that, we have to expand the colors. So have your rectangle selected, go to Object, Expand, and specify 255 objects. That's fine. Hit OK. And can you see those little lines that showed up in there? Watch this. I'm going to select that piece, use my eyedropper tool, because that's your handy dandy little selection, and it selects any color that you click on. It's really cool. But I'm going to click on that color right there, or that color, or that color. You can see I can choose any color in this spectrum, this awesome value scale that I created, to change the color. So this is the main key to creating this gradient landscape we want to do. Now the second thing, the most important thing and confusing, is you're working from back to front. So you have to start with your lightest colors first and work your way forward. And that can be kind of confusing. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to draw a big square to fill in my background. So I have a solid color in the background. And I'm going to use my eyedropper tool, or the letter I on my keyboard for my shortcut, to select that light color. It still looks white, so that's good. Command-Shift-A selects off of your object. So I'm going to go to the pen tool, or the letter P on my keyboard, and I'm going to start drawing a mountain. And I'm going to make it be a full piece, because that's important. Always stop where you started, and you'll know that you're stopping where you started when that little circle shows up next to your pen. Now I have a full piece. I can now go to the letter I, my eyedropper, and choose the next color up on my spectrum, or down, however you want to say it. And Command-Shift-A to deselect that piece, and look, I'm starting to have mountains. Now, this is fun. This is a fun little tool, a little trick that I learned. Over here in this width tool, you have all these other fun tools. You have Crystallize, Wrinkle, and Scallop. Crystallize does some fun, funky stuff and can give you some fun mountains. Wrinkle is the one I really want, though. It just slowly kind of vibrates along the line. It gives you that effect of maybe trees and rocky mountains, since we are in Wyoming. The Tetons, maybe, in the background. Command-Shift-A to deselect the object again. And look at that, that's pretty sweet. So if I keep going, and you're going to, do a much better job than I am using this pen tool. Finish where I started. Go I for the eyedropper. The next color, see how I'm gradually choosing a color? I don't want it to be like, go from that light to that dark. You want to follow your gradient that you made. And then I go to this bloat tool, or the wrinkle tool. And this was doing this to me yesterday. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know why. But let's see if I can get to work again. There we go. I don't know why it does that. I think it's the user, not the program. I can't explain everything in Illustrator. It's complicated. Command-Shift-A to deselect that, and look at that. That's pretty neat. So really quickly, I'm going to show you how to insert, like if you want to have a foreground here. I'm going to finish this really quick. I'm going to zip through it, and then I'm going to show you how to add those trees into the Okay, so I've saved those trees on my desktop, so I'm going to go File, Place. And there they are. Now, we got two things going on here. There's a white background, and we need to get rid of it. Well, that's one thing. And then they're black. Actually, that's the second thing. So, and we don't want them to be black. We want them to be that color. because you want it to all blend together. So what you want to do is you want to go up to this handy dandy little tool called Image Trace, and we want to choose silhouettes. And I like this because now it looks really not like it was off the internet. It's more original, and it gets rid of the white background. Now, just like we did with expanding this object, we have to expand this object as well so that we can change the color. So go up to Object, Expand, hit OK, and now you can see that the color has changed. But if I go and let's see what happens when I use the eyedropper tool, it's going to fill the whole thing, and that's definitely not what we want. So we have to do one more step to it. After we expand it, we go to Object, Live Paint, Make. Now I can go to my paint bucket, which is hiding somewhere. It's always hiding underneath the shape builder tool. I can choose that color that I had up there and see, let's see. And I hold the Option key to make several copies. Okay, so in order for this to look like a cohesive piece, you might want to change some of the pieces, hold the Shift key and make some of the trees smaller so they don't all look so uniform. But see, these colors here are different than the one in the background. Select that background piece, use the eyedropper tool, select your trees, and there, now all the pieces go together. Everything in the gray is not going to stay there. It goes away once you save the image. So that is just a really quick rundown on how you can do a really fun gradient piece. So I hope that helps.